Okay, so we got this question yesterday. We say a ladder is leaning against the wall. So ladder is leaning against the wall here. And this is the wall. And this is roughly 20 foot. That's the 25, sorry. That's 25, that's 7, and that's dx dt is equal to 2. So with that being said, we figure out that dy dt is equal to negative 7 over 12. Okay, we did all the work. We figure out that negative 7 over 12 is our questions, our answers for A. And we went ahead to B. Okay, B, what do the B says? Consider a triangle formed by the side of the house and a ladder and a ground. It's totally, it doesn't have actual application to it. It's just purely for fun. They want to find this area, which is totally ridiculous. But it was fun. It's okay. We can do this. It just like the question 3 on yesterday's homework. Area equal to 1/2 base times height. Is that okay? So in term variable, it's going to be 1/2 times x times y. Does that make sense? This is x and this is y. If I take a derivative, what am I going to get? It's 1/2. Yeah, that's going to be x dy dt plus y dx dt. Some people say they have different order. That's okay. Because it's associate property, so that you can actually figure out anything. So 1/2 x is going to be what? 7 times dy dt, which is negative 7 over 12, which is what you get yesterday, plus y, which is 24, and the dx dt is 2. And you just work out a math, and you got an answer for B.
Which rule is that again?
Product. And that's fairly straightforward. That's just like yesterday's number 3. There is no difference between this question and yesterday's question. They basically tell you a triangle. One is going up, one is going down, one's going right. And see what happened. Now, it comes to the next question. David, pay attention.
Wait, can you go back real quick?
Huh?
24.
How do I get what 24? Why is 24? Because this, you use Pythagorean triplets.
Oh.
So it'd be 7, 24, 25. Or you can use Pythagorean identity to figure out 24. Yep. No, we're going to look at this question, the third part. So the third part says, wait a second, what was the question again? So let's look at the third part. They say find a rate. Do you see that rate? Angle changing. That means what in term of calculus? D theta dt. Thank you. Somebody's paying attention. Good job. It's gonna be d theta dt. But where's the theta here? It's going to be according to the questions.
So like up,
It's the top one.
Top left. Usually you place on the bottom, but this one is on the top. But that makes the bottom part is the opposite. Does that make sense? That makes x is the opposite. That makes 25 is hypotenuse. Y is actually adjacent. Unlike other coordinations, so unlike other things. So anytime you have d theta dt, this is what you're gonna have to write it down. Anytime d theta dt result with SOHCAHTOA, you have to use SOHCAHTOA as a relationship. And you have to figure out SOHCAHTOA. Once you figure out SOHCAHTOA, the best thing is make sure constant is on the denominator. And also make sure which variable is and understand what is a variable. Understand what is a variable. I remember one SAT question a long time ago basically just asked you what is a constant on following expression. Literally, that was like 3 years ago. And students like, oh my god, this is so hard. What is a constant? It's a something that doesn't change. If you have x, guess what? X can change, right? That's called a variable. What? You don't know that? And you'd be surprised how many people got a question wrong. I think it's good 30%.
It's gonna be on our net.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. So SOHCAHTOA, and make sure denominator on the bottom. So here's the things. I have this situation. I have this 25, right? In terms of this case, this is a constant or this is a variable?
Constant.
Is x a constant or variable? It's actually variable, even though it's a 7, but 7 is temporary. 7 is constantly changing because you slide down. 7 change to 8, 8 become 9, 9 become 10. And the y as well, y is going to be shrinking. So y, it didn't matter, that's 24, but it's still going to change. Derek, put your phone away.
In the next unit of calculus, the latter will be retractable.
No, the harder related rate question is like, if you have a hot air balloon is going up and you decide and at a height of 100 feet and you decide to drop a rock and I want to find out how fast the shadow is moving.
Why would anybody want to figure that out?
No one.
It's not like that.
You know what? I really want to drop a rock from a hot air balloon today.
Okay, so what happened is what kind of trigonometry I should use? Sine, cosine, tangent. Which situation I will use here?
Well, then what-
Actually, all three is viable, but there is only one better choice.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Why do you say sine?
Because we have, even though it's temporary, we still have x, which is opposite the angle that we.
So why you don't use cosine though? Cosine also has a hypotenuse on the bottom. Ah, dx dt, it's more reliable than dy dt. Why it's more reliable? dy dt is, we found it. We found dy dt. But the problem is we found it. What happened if we make mistake? That's a continuation happen. So then you don't want to use dy dt because what if you make mistakes? You want to use dx dt. So therefore you want to use this x and this h. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out that. I'm going to say, give me a second, put your hand down for a second. Sine theta is equal to the x over 25. Why do I use x? Why I don't use 7? I use 7, there is no dx dt. I have to use x because that x is still changing. It's a variable. 25 is a constant. X is a variable. I understand that. Very, very important. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a derivative with respect to time. And what's the nice thing is this. There was a chain rule involved. And here it's going to be cosine of theta times d theta dt, which is that's the thing you were looking for. It's equal to, well, derivative of x over 25. If you use quotient rule, I'm going to beat you. And that's on live stream, so you can sue me for that. Anyway, do not use quotient rule. Okay? X over 25 is like 3 times x. You don't need to use product rule for 3 times x. It's 1 over 25. This is a 1 over 25 times x, right? So that's 1 over 25 times dx dt. You do not use quotient rule. If you use quotient rule, I will physically beat you. And that's not a threat. It's a promise. 1 over 25. And the dx dt is going to be what? That's -2, right? That's 2, right? And I'm going to divide by cosine, so it's going to be 1 over cosine. But cosine theta is what? No, if divided by cosine on both sides, it's going to be 1 over cosine. That's equal to secant on the numerator. Secant is also known as what? It's a hypotenuse over adjacent, right? What is hypotenuse over adjacent in this case? Well, we do know hypotenuse is 25. And adjacent, we do know is 24. So 25 cancel out, nice, 1 over 12. And then that becomes a radian per second. So what does it mean by radian? By the way, you guys probably cannot see how fast that angle is changing. By the way, 1 radian, you need to know this in the future. It help you thinking about how much is 1 radian. 1 radian is roughly equal to 57 degrees. Because 57 times 3.14 is equal to 180. Because pi radian is equal to 180 degrees. So therefore, 3.14 radian is equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, 180 divided by 3.14 is roughly equal to 57.3. So 1 radian is equal to 57 degrees. Why that's important? Because you will know what I mean by 1/12 of radian per second. Because that means 1/12 of 57. So roughly 4 degrees to 5 degrees per second. That's how much the angle is changing. So if we just say express in radian per second, usually people don't relate that too easily because they don't have a very good structural learning when we deal with this type of stuff. And actually, matter of fact, I didn't know it until I become a teacher. When I was a student, I was a good math student, but I never knew what the radian meant. But until I become a teacher, I actually understand, oh, 1 radian, that means that's 3.14 times whatever, 57 is equal to 180. Therefore, 1 radian is roughly 57 degrees. So that I know. Now, with that being said, that's roughly 4 to 5 degrees per second. And now you can see that angle is changing. Now, are they 4 to 5? Are they 1/12 radian per second all time? No. If you sliding down, right? As I'm going downwards, the angle changing is going to be much faster. If I'm going here, if I change it a little bit, the angle is going to change very, very small. So it really depends on what the situation is. So here's my question. I have a questions here. And I want you guys to think about it before you go. So you got 10 minutes. You got 6 minutes to do it. I'll do it in 4 minutes. So.
I don't think we finished reading, by the way.
What?
I don't think we finished reading.
We finished what?
We did?
Yeah.
You didn't calculate, you just left like that.
Yeah.
You pretty much know that.
Okay, so for this part, I don't want you to do A. Ignore A. A is not relevant. You can skip A and just straight to B. So, and make sure knowing which one's a constant, make sure you draw a picture. They already give you a picture. You just have to fill in the information. It's not that deep. You just have to fill in the information. You just have to figure out what this information is giving.
Wait, do we have homework tonight?
You have homework. Yeah, you have lots of homework.
What?
Alright, so
Part B. You're trying to do part B.
so for this one, the last one you're doing, I got this right here. D theta over dp equals that, and then what do you do?
And then secant theta is equal to hypotenuse over 24 over adjacent. 25 over 24.
Alright.
Wait, does that mean we're not doing tutoring today?
I will stay for 40 minutes here today because I think I have fencing club to do too.
No, that's next week.
That's next week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then I have to get her the school pay first. Because that way people can pay.
So is secant theta just turn into this?
Yeah, because secant theta is the ratio of this triangle. So you
And
just have
then
to
these
figure
two cancel out, and
1
2
over
is
12.
24. And 1 over 12 what? Radians?
1 over 2 radian per second.
Why do you get that? Radians for?
That's how much the angle is. Usually everything, the number is always radian. So it's very hard to understand that part, but just mark my word for it. Just Radian is always the answer you're gonna get, and then it's over seconds. Radian over seconds.
Okay.
David, get to work.
Camera is mounted 3,000.
We don't have to do A.
You'll get an answer. If I remember, is a 2-digit number over 3-digit number.
Camera needs to swivel. Rocket and launch. Keep it in focus.
Now pay attention what's constant, what's variable here. And then pick the right trigonometric equation to use. Because you don't want an x on the bottom, that's why it's harder to take a derivative when you have variable on the bottom. So always put a constant on the top.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Camera to rocket distance. So we have that on the camera's angle and elevation to Alright, so how do we start this? How do we start this?
It's gonna be.
You have to find C.
C, what do you mean C?
Like the
Hypotenuse?
yeah.
Yeah, but it was an easy way to find it. You only need to take 3 seconds to find it.
Is it 5?
I got something. Jeez. Oh!
About 3 seconds.
Huh?
It's about 3 seconds.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just remember it.
I don't want to simplify. Where?
You will simplify it down to a 2-digit number on the top and 3-digit number on the bottom. All the numbers add together is gonna be, hold on, let me see, 11. So all the digits add together from numerator and denominator is gonna give you 11, I think. No, you don't need a calculator.
But.
Maybe you don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Come on, you guys all Chinese now.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
4, 5.
There's only 0.
Strong, you know, honorary Chinese.
Yeah, I'm already Chinese. I'm like
Write down on your AP exam.
No, we'll write our names in Chinese characters.
Oh shoot! I'm so stupid.
Yep.
Wait, you don't need.
No.
Okay, you're right.
Hey,
Okay, I'm sorry. I disappointed you.
Wait, so how do we figure it out? How fast is the camera?
You got 2 more minutes.
I'm still trying to figure out what in the world we're doing. Oh, okay, now I get it.
Oh wow. He only said one word. It's like physics. Oh yeah, duh. And he got it. In that case.
You can use any sine, cosine, or
No, you have to use the one of them that's gonna best fit. You can use any of them, but there's only one that's easier than the other two.
it's sine.
You pick the worst one? It definitely should pick the constant on the bottom.
No, it's right. No, it's not.
No,
Is it not?
no, it's not.
Oh wait.
Wait, hold on. If you have a pen, then what?
What?
Ah, sexy 10.
Yeah, everyone. You had it on.
So I'm gonna start working on this. This is a 3,000, I think.
Yes.
This is a 4,000, I think. And roughly this is a 5,000 according to ratio. And this is a x, this is a y, and the dy dt is 800. And I will use tangent.
Yeah.
Because the x is
3000 over, I think it's y.
it's not changing.
And if I take a derivative respect to time, I'm gonna get secant squared theta d theta dt 1 over 3000. Please don't use quotient rule. Dy dt. And then that's gonna give you 800 over 3000 because that's dy dt is 800 times cosine times cosine square. Why is cosine? Because it's divided by both sides by secant squared and it becomes cosine squared. Does that make sense? And you got d theta dt.
I'm gonna take 96 twice.
And then d theta dt is equal to 8 over 30 times 3 over 5 squared. Why 3 over 5? 3000 over 5000, same thing as 3 over 5. And that's equal to 4 over 15 times 9 over 25. Now 9 and 15 can reduce down to 3 and 5. So it'll be 125 and 12 radian per second. Voila. I still have 30 seconds. Because you divide by both sides by secant squared, it's going to be 1 over secant, right? Remember, if you divide by both sides by secant squared and the secant squared, but secant squared, if you flip upwards, becomes cosine squared theta. And then cosine squared theta is equal to 3 over 5. And that's equal to, it just, and I wasn't kidding about the parachute question. No, the hot air balloon question. It looks right here. If you want to see it.
I really don't.
You really don't?
No.
Why not?
Michigan, we'll cross our bridge when we get to it.
It says a moving shadow question. Question 88.
Oh, wait, so we're gonna be doing this like, Tuesday.
Huh?
We're gonna be doing this what, Tuesday?
We're gonna be all the way doing all the way till Tuesday. Yeah.
So what you?
Question 88.
What?
Question 88.
A sandbag drop on the lid. Oh my gosh.
Because we can be divided.
That's really nice of them to give the question. They give the
You have those.
It's really nice of them to give us the equation.